Hello everyone. So in this lecture, we'll be going over Java if and else. So if and else is a statement that you can use in your programming, and it's a logic that if something is true, then do something. So what I mean by that is we use Boolean for that. So if something is true, meaning let's say you have a number. So int number equals to 5, right? And now what you can do is if number is greater than 10, print something. So we can print system.out.println, and we can say number is greater than 10. And I need to put this in quotation, so turn it into a string. All right. So now this print statement at line 11 will only print if the number is greater than 10. So run it. Right now the number is not greater than 10, so it's not going to print. So you're going to skip over it because this statement right here is a Boolean statement. So if you wanted to assign that to a Boolean, you can actually do that as well. So you can do Boolean result equals to, and I'm going to copy this. Where is copy? I'll just type it. I'll just use Control C. Sorry. So now the result of this is the question. The question you're trying to ask is number greater than 10? That's the question you're asking. Then the answer is true. It's either going to be true or false. So in this case, it's false because the number that we assigned 5 to is not greater than 10. Now, if you come in here and change this to 15, now the result, this right here, is true. So if you run it now, this is true, and the only thing that you can pass in the if statement at this right here is a Boolean statement. So you can only ask a question: if is number greater than 10? So let's get rid of this, and actually that might be confusing you a little bit. So you can actually just add it like this. You don't have to have variables in there. And in this case, 5 is 5 greater than 10? It is not, so nothing gets printed. If I go and change that to 15, 15 is greater than 10. Now we actually print line 1. I'm sorry, line 11. So you can actually, there are multiple ways you can do it. So this is greater than, so let me actually write all the symbols down. So we have greater than, less than, greater than or equals to, less than or equals to, and equals to, and not equals to. So let's actually define this. This is greater than, and then we have less than, then we have greater than or equals to, then we have less than or equals to, then we have equals to, and then we have not equals to. So you see the difference right here. We have two equal signs. Two equal signs means you're comparing two things. If you have one equal sign, that is an assignment. You're assigning a value. If you have two equal signs, that means you're comparing. So if we have two equal signs here, we're comparing if 15 is equals to 10. In this case, it is not. So whatever we have inside this curly braces, these two, will not run because this condition is false. So we can have multiple print statements, print, and you can have like thousands of lines of code that is all dependent on this condition. And the condition could be anything that you want it to be. So let's say line 2, none of it will print because 15 is not equals to 10. So now if we wanted to print, what I can do is I can change the condition to something like this. 15 does not equal to 10. That statement is true now. They're not equals to each other. And now we actually go into the if statement and print whatever we need to print. Right. So we have it at greater than, we also have less than. And that is checking if the left side is less than the right side. And you can actually use variables for this, or you can actually use the numbers, anything that you want, but the result of this condition has to be either true or false, right? And now what you can do is you can do greater than or equals to. So what this means is it's going to work right now. It's going to print, these two statements are going to print because 15 is greater than 10. And the other condition that this is 10 is 10 greater than or equals to 10. So it's not greater than, but it is equals to, So in this case, this condition is true. So if you run it, both of those two statements will print. And with this, okay. So those are the main ones you need to worry about, all those conditions. So we have if statement and then we have else. So let's do the else part. The else, what happens there is if this condition, all this code depends on this condition, this right here. So if this condition is false, then we don't even look at what's inside the if statement. We just go into the else part and print that. So I'm going to go ahead and change this to less than, just less than. Is 10 less than 10? It is not. So what's going to happen is we're going to print this statement or something like this. We run it, we get printing else part, and we don't even go in there. But if this statement is true, then we don't even worry about the else part. We only print the if part. Number is greater than 10 and line 2, so we're printing this right here. And we don't print the else part. So only one of this part of code will be printed. Either this is going to print or either this is going to print. Right. And excuse me. All right. So let's do example. Let's say we have a variable called age. So we have age equals to, let's say, 20, right? And now we're going to determine if this person can vote or not. So what we can do is we can have if statement, if age is greater than or equals to 18, then we can say system.out.println, and we can say you are eligible to vote. And if the statement is not true, which is the else part, we're going to say, I'm going to copy this because I'm a lazy programmer. You are not eligible to vote. So run it. And right now, the age is 20, which is greater than 18. We are eligible to vote. So again, let's go ahead and change that to 17. And then you're not eligible to vote. So then these are the cases that you would want to use the if and else statements. So the other thing, let's do one more example. So let's go ahead and change this. Let's say you have an int number equals to 7, and we want to check if this number is even or odd. And we can actually do that in Java. So if number is even or odd, obviously we can look at it and see this is an odd number. So we can actually write code to do that too. So we can do number divisible by 2 equals 0. If that is the case, we'll do number plus is even. something like this. So now how would this work? Number modulus 2 equals 0. So what's going to happen is it's going to do this part first, number modulus 2, and then whatever the result is, it's going to compare that to 0. And why would that work? And let me actually show you. So what's going to happen is going to 7 divided by 2, and 2, how many times does that go into 7? It goes in there 3 times, which is 6, and it is 1. So now 1 is going to get placed here, and I need to fix the second print statement, which is going to be is odd, and I'm going to attach the number. Now if you run it, it's going to print number is odd, so 7 is odd, because this statement is not true. So 1 gets plugged in here, 1 equals 0, they're not equals to each other, we go into the else part. So we're going to change that to 8, and let me clear the screen. 8 is even because 8 gets plugged in here, and that the result of that is 0, 0 equals 0, then it's even, and we print that, and we don't worry about the else part. All right, so let's do one more, and let's write everything from scratch. So then we have, let's say we have temperature, right? So temperature equals to 20. Let's say in Celsius. Let's do 70. Let's temperature 70 Fahrenheit. If temperature is less than or equals to 45, right? And then we're gonna say system system.println, and we're gonna say it's freezing cold. Then we also have, what if you wanted multiple conditions, right? So what we can do is we can do else if we can have multiple conditions in the same statement. So now what's going to happen is we're going to say temperature is less than or greater than greater than 45. Oops. And temperature is less than or equals to let's say 70, right? And then we're going to say it's moderate, not too cold, not too hot, something like this. And then we can do is else it's hot. So what's going to happen here is we'll set the temperature to 70. Let's start with let's do 44, right? So what's going to happen is temperature is going to come in here 44. It's less than 45. We're going to say it's freezing. Let's go and change that to 50. So now it's going to come in here. It's going to compare 50 to 45. 50 is not less than 45. So what happens? It does not go into this if statement, then it goes into the next one. It goes to the next one and checks the condition, if that condition is true. So now we actually haven't covered the and. So what happens here is we're going to check this condition. This is going to be, is 50 greater than 45? It is. And we need to check the second condition also. So what this is saying, these two ampersand signs are just to and. That means this side right here on the left side has to be true, and the right side has to be true in order for this whole statement to be true. Remember, we can only pass in one big true or false, right? So now we're checking two conditions and we're combining them with and. What's checking is, it is 50 greater than 45? Yes, it is. Then we check, is 50 less than or equals to 70? Yes, it is. So true and true. This whole thing becomes true. In order for this big statement to be true, both of them have to be true. In this case, it is. We're going to go ahead and print this statement. All right, and let's go ahead and change that to 70. If you change it to 70, that means this is false, this is false, this is false, so this whole big statement is going to be false. Then we don't have any option left to check any more conditions. We go straight to the else and just print hot. So run it. I'm sorry, I forgot to change this to 75. So now this is false, this is false, this is false, everything is false. Then we don't have any option but to go to else, which is going to be the hot. Right. So the and or. So there's and or. So there's and or. So or means this is the symbol for or. And symbol is 2 ampersand sign. What is the ampersand sign? Like this one. So what happens is, let's actually draw out the table. Let me actually pull up the table and we'll go over the table together. Just a minute. All right, so now let's assume we have a symbol called a Boolean symbol, and the B symbol Boolean symbol called B. Now what's going to happen is we're going to set A to these values and B to these values, and we're going to see what's going to happen with and or operators. So now let's say A is false and B is set to false. Then we're going to read A or B. A is false, B is false, right? Then the whole thing is false. The result of that is false. Then we have A and B. A is false and B is false. That means the whole result of that would be false. So we're actually not going to worry about that. That is just negating it. So that is just doing a negate of A. You can actually do that in Java, but that's later in the course. But if you want to learn that, that's right there. Okay. Now let's say A is set to true, B is set to false. Then we do A true or false. True or false. Remember, it's or is the English word, and it's the exact same meaning of that. One of them has to be true in order for the whole statement to be true. So in this case, this is going to be true. So now this is going to be true. And then we have true, A is true, then B is false, A is true, true and false. Remember, both of them have to be true in order for the and statement to be true, so it's going to be false. Because B is false. Right? Then we have false, true, A is false, B is true. Then we do false or true. It's going to be true because remember, only one of them have to be true in order for this whole statement to be true. And here, both of them have to be true. One is false, this one is false, then the whole statement is going to be false. Now we have both of them set to true. True or true is going to be true. Only one of them has to be true for the whole statement to be true. Then we have true and true. So both of them are true in this case, right there. So then this is going to be true. Right. So that's pretty much it for this video. If you guys have any questions or concerns, please let me know.